So, gentlemen, it's just us. So we're going to have some questions, but let me, you two both, these both have been many, many years in Philippines. We know Carlo's been, 30 years, did you say? 20 years in Philippines, so quite an achievement, I would say, and talks highly of Filipinos and Cebuanos, all that kind of stuff. As well, Simon has been 18 years in Philippines, who brought his lovely Filipino wife here with us. She's going to stand so we can take a look, dressed in lovely red. Very good story there. So what do we think about Philippines? Well, we could start a kind of a bit of warm and fuzzy story, but what do you think about Filipinos and Philippines? What do you think is the future of real estate and technology here? Is Philippines got what it takes, or is it going to take a long time to get to where you want to go?
When I designed this building in wood, I analyzed and I visualized a few videos, a movie of the 2030s, 40s of Manila and some Cebu. And so I would like also, and I didn't go into the details because I knew that those things has to be fast, but in the interior touches that I did in that building, I put like the Solinhia, some Filipino element, and I reproduce El Anay, recalling that this country in the 20, 30, 40s was one of the leading country in Asia actually, and there was great conviviality among people, meetings. The Filipino are very elegant people. They like design, they like beautiful things. The only problem at the time, there were 15 million people person, quite wealthy, and then there has been a huge growth. Aside from those details, I think that the history repeats itself, and I do hope, because I love this country and I really love the people. I born not in Italy, but I born in Africa, in Eritrea, Ethiopia. That's the reason that the name is Asmara, the city where I was born. I found in the Filipino the same simplicity and the kind of life that I had experienced when I was a child in Africa. And I think that there is also similarity among the story of the Philippines and the story of Italy. We were a country of immigrants. We had several batches of Italian, the 20 in the United States in the 1800s, in the early 2030s. Then we went even after the Second War in North Europe, in Belgium. Italians were waiters, miners, truck drivers, and things. So there has been some parallel in this kind of history. Then in the 70s, 80s, we come back to Italy, and we had a great boom also in the 60s. So I think that the Philippine economy, also thanks to the so-called Balikbayan, is having one of the start of the many booms that are coming in this country, is also due, yes, from the remittances for the immigrants, but not only for that, for the immigrants itself that are coming back, working here, bringing know-how, bringing another level of skill. Don't forget, sorry if I go a bit wide, then I pass the word. I also, as a former economist, I also observe the Banco Central Filipino. In my personal opinion, as a former economist, I don't know anymore what I am. For example, the Banco Central Filipino is one of the most well-managed central bank in the world. I'm very passionate also about economy. And the fundamentals of the country are really very solid and sound. So, going back to the question, finally, sorry for this longer, but at least is solid the explanation. I think that this country can only but to grow, but the story also of growing to where? I hope that also the growth will be done, like I try to give an example, in a sustainable way. The big city, yes, in this way, super high-tech, super high-rise building, etc. But also the rest of the country has to grow, but not too much, because we have seen in the Western economy that we grow, and then we want to go back a little. So I hope that the Philippines will use the wisdom, and not to go crazy and become the robotic society that we have seen in some part of the world, but to keep their soul that is fantastic.
Yes, Carlo, if you don't know, he's not an architect. He's actually a doctor of economics, correct? So who went into architecture, but also the Philippine Central Bank, I agree, most people would say it's a very well-managed organization. Please, Simon.
So as Richard's mentioned, I've been living here 18 years. I'm very happy here. Originally I'm from Lebanon, so this is very much like my country. We have a lot of similarities. We're the only Christian country in the Middle East. I think you're the only Christian country in Asia. We have the same politicians, we have similar roads, we have the same driving genes. We both drive like this, but we're sober. So I'm very comfortable here. But professionally, so my background really is in manufacturing originally, and I'm new to real estate. Although my engineering background, I used to design bomb-proof buildings and military Class B support vehicles. But I got involved in technology around 15 years ago, and only last year I got involved in real estate technology. So that's full disclosure. But for the past 6 months, having been now in the market in real estate, and presenting technology, I've learned quite a lot. And speaking to, go to your question about growth here, I think we all know the economic factors here and the political situation, so I won't go into that. But it's very promising in terms of the economy, and real estate is doing well. My biggest concern here is that, and I say this with all due respect, the Philippines really, despite how well-traveled Filipinos are, we really are a follower rather than a leader. So we tend to do things because we saw it somewhere else, not because we want to be the first, right? We may want to be the first in our country, but typically they want to see adoption elsewhere before they do it. And then the other big thing, which kind of I think holds us back, is a lot of companies today, and I'm speaking about real estate technologies, they're all on this bandwagon of, yes, we want to go digital, we want to get involved in prop tech, but it's more words than action. So many companies, I think, and I'm generalizing, of course, like JLL, are very much into prop tech, and they actually walk the talk. But you meet companies here that they're 30, 40-year-old companies in real estate, and the fact they now have a nice modern office, a modern building, they have internet, they have projectors, and they do social media. That's now technology, and that's not really the kind of technology we're talking about to move into the digital age, into the fourth industrial revolution. So this is the challenge I find when I meet with companies, even when they see what we're presenting, and they see the existing technology. For example, in my case, I have a solution which gives real estate marketers a 3D camera without buying a 3D camera. So for example, a 3D camera is $5,000. Every time you touch it, it's $200, right? It's 4K resolution. So we come to them, we say, we give you a 3D camera from your phone. So now every employee has a 3D camera, and it's only $50 a month. And it's 8K resolution. Do you know how hard that is as a sell? It is difficult, right? And in the end, because they agree we do need this, so either my clients have a 3D camera, and then they use our technology to stop using the 3D camera, or they don't have a 3D camera because it's expensive and complex, so then they use our technology. But the purpose of our technology is to empower every single real estate broker with this technology. Because today, we are moving digital, right? And the old days of brokers out, at home having dinner with his wife, he gets a call from a client, hey, I want to sign that contract. And then the next thing you know, the broker has to leave his home, go to the office, sign the contract, fax it over. Today, you empower your brokers with these digital tools. On their phone, they can sign contracts, they can take pictures, they can upload them, edit them, etc. So we're doing the same thing with 3D technology. So the idea is to empower the individual real estate professional, basically liberalizing the workforce. Yet you find companies here that despite the cost savings, they say, okay, instead of taking 50, I'll take one, and I'll have 50 brokers share it. So I'm not whining because my market really is outside, but I would just like to see a bigger thought process and more empowerment of the workforce in the Philippines. I think we place too much emphasis on assets, not on people, and that's what I think is holding us back.
Okay, we have a question right here, please.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Judith Torres. I'm with Blueprint Magazine. I have a question for Simon about 3D technology. So you were talking about using the 3D camera to shoot a space all around so that a buyer can experience it and therefore fall in love with it. But isn't that a bit too late in the game for selling? Because developers sell their properties way before construction is completed, right? So So maybe that's why it's also difficult to get them to buy the expensive equipment since they're selling way before construction has been completed.
Well, that's a good question. So here in the Philippines, you basically have two kinds of real estate industry. Those that are selling existing properties, and those are pre-selling. And most of the market here is pre-selling. Hence, they find it difficult to use a 3D camera because there's nothing to take a picture of. Although many of them actually invest in a, what do you call it, in a model in a showroom unit.
Right.
So they use that. But if you remember my presentation, I had a short video on augmented reality. So many of them have actually tried using augmented reality. But again, because they don't understand the technology, because it's all out there, right? And especially now VR, AR is very hyped. So they've seen this somewhere, and sadly, they adopt technology, which is a good thing, but they adopt technology without understanding technology. I mean, the number of companies I've seen here that go and buy an Oculus VR system to market a property, it's mind-boggling. So the Oculus VR system is one of the best VR solutions you can buy, but it is not suitable to sell a property. If you're selling video games, yes, you need an Oculus solution or something like that. But when you're going to stop someone in the mall or meet with a potential customer, you don't want to spend the first half hour teaching them how to use an Oculus headset. Right? So with respect to AR, there's been a number of companies here that are giving AR solutions based on drawings of a pre-built unit. But sadly, they grab the technology by the tail, and it's not effective. So they're selling an AR technology, but it's in 2D. It looks like being inside a video game. It's not very realistic. And all this has to be farmed out because most of these real estate companies cannot do it in-house. It's a specialized skill. So what we've done is that through their existing 2D drawings or renderings, we can create for them very good cost-effectively an AR app, which actually lets them show a property with the many options. So for example, let's say you want to show a house and the floor is a wooden floor, but that house has the option of buying it with a marble floor. Right?
Actually, I'm quite familiar with that because I used to advise a company that uses VR, and they have a cave. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
So 3 walls, the ceiling, and the floor. It's a double-edged sword because while, let's say, the design has been approved, then it's great. You can show client, okay, marble floor, a wooden floor, parquet floor, etc. But it's becoming a double-edged sword because when client found out that the architects could present them various options, and they started using VR as a means for them to get the architects to continue exploring design. Way before approval. So they would get architects spending hundreds of hours doing renderings so that they could see them looking virtual rather than like a video game. So now the architects in this particular firm are like, we hate VR. So when you said technology should liberate the workforce, I was like really laughing because VR is killing these architects in this firm. Anyway, that's just a comment. And I just wanted to find out about your stat. You were saying 5% of real estate agents use VR to sell, but 87% would
use it if they could, if they had access to the technology.
If they could. But you're talking about global or
it's
Western?
it's a global number, yes. It's based on 70 countries.
Okay, so yeah, thank you.
Yes, it's not a Philippine stat.
Okay.
VR is very new here.
Hello, my name is Rajiv and I'm from Sales Rain. Great presentation, by the way. Especially Carlo, I was very impressed. Very romantic kind of a presentation. The question I have is, in real estate, most of the buyers or tenants who are looking at leasing, they kind of make logical decision as well as emotional decision. So both the sentiments are involved. And you two are the perfect people on the stage because, Simon, you talk about technology, and Carlo, you talk about, more heart and putting emotions into the real estate. So I think in today's day and age, as much as, we all, I think, we would like to make our decisions without the technology, just the old style, traditional way. I think we also need to use technology. So my question for both of you is, how do we combine the two to be successful? The logical and the emotional part.
That's a tough question.
You saw my sketch by hand. That was the romantic aspect for it. But the civil engineer who studied that building, he had a really hard time, and they have amazing computer technology, AutoCAD, the most evolved one, because you have to imagine that we are talking of 1,000 parts and bolts that has to block together. And it happened that it was perfect, but that building is unique. It's not that it's been done in a serial way. So there is a huge technology behind that kind of construction. It looks like a simple wood structure, it's not at all. And there is one aspect that I did not highlight, if not in that little video, but every joint, as I was saying, there are 24 to 36 bolts or pins in metal. So if the topography is not perfect, if the quota are not perfect, you cannot assemble the building, and it's kind of a serious headache. So there are, they make simulation of the assembling of all the parts, and they study, it takes more or less a month to do a complete study of this one. And I think only thanks to this technology we have nowadays, we could do these things that we assemble in 10, 12 weeks. In the past, I think there was much more struggle. So wood, people have the tendency to think low-tech, but the airport of Cebu is a magnificent example of wood technology together with the really amazing computation that they did because of this huge arc. I don't know if you have ever seen the Cebu airport, and the structure are very impressive. So, and then also the machinery of those wood, glulam is called, they have only in a few countries, in a few companies only does this, the production of those beams and trusses, because they need a very huge CNC machine that are only tailor-made for these beams. You cannot do in a normal woodworking factory this kind of things, impossible. They need, because all the part, the metal is inserted, they need a very particular CNC machine. So it looks like something very traditional in wood, but there is a huge technology behind it. Thank you for the question.
Well, the reality is today, you cannot ignore technology. You can delay adopting it, but it's happening all the time, it's happening around you. So sooner or later, you will adopt technology. With respect to real estate, I was having this discussion earlier with my wife, and I was telling her that real estate does not need technology to continue to do business as they do, but it does need technology to become efficient. Right? And the same thing for us. Okay, you can. My father, for example, took him a long time to use a smartphone, to use a mobile phone, right? And then at one point you think he'd never text or send emails, etc., but at least he started texting and sending emails. So he may not be as savvy with all the features, but you really end up finding yourself, you will adapt and you will adopt technology to some degree. You just cannot avoid it in this day and age. Plus the tools that we have, the tools we're using, and as technology is getting better, it's becoming easier to use. And as I mentioned earlier, now we're seeing AI and machine learning coming to market, and very soon tech will be acting by itself for you. You won't be having to do as much for yourself. So this is all coming, and technology will definitely be part of our lives. It already is, actually. But you make a good point. I mean, I think as technologists, we have to find that balance between the emotional equation and the technology equation, because too much of anything is not a good thing, right? Too much of being old school is not right, and too much of being too far forward thinking or avant-garde is not right. We need a balance. After all, we still have that human element in the way we interact with one another, even with our work.
Another question, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Gemma Garlan, and I'm from Ernst & Young. So we recently have taken up 5 floors in one of the newest properties in McKinley West. So last year, while we were trying to build out the total cost to build out these floors, it became apparent that it seems that our cost to build properties in the Philippines are higher than most of the neighboring countries. So what do you think are we missing out, or how can we lower down the cost, or what support do we need from the government to make that happen so that we become more cost competitive and with our neighboring countries, and we will continue to become the best viable solution for more businesses to come to the Philippines?
It's a very good question. Just for your background, Gemma runs the Ernst & Young Global Shared Services operation, so they provide very high-end services, highly trained Filipinos for their global operations. And I think a couple thousand people, 2,000 people you have, 3,000, sorry. So quite a large footprint she has, and growing too. But a very good question, and I talk too much. Please, gentlemen.
I think that's a question for you.
Yeah, I have to use the economist part of my life. I observed the Philippines, as I mentioned, for 25, 28 years, and I think that one of the possible answer to your question is that this is a consumer country. It's not a manufacturing country, first of all, as a general identification. And I would love to have the time to write something or to make a video or something, because it's an economy that in 30 years it jumped from the rice field to the Makiling building, to the BGC and the high-tech. It's been very fast. And the structure of the society was that old families and oligarchies, they in some way control, they own everything and they don't need anything to do. Why they have to go into manufacturing? So everything is imported, and you depend a lot from abroad in anything, I would say. Actually, even in my furniture company, I import even the dowel, the sandpaper, anything, because everything is cheaper to import than producing here. So my main analysis is that this is not a manufacturing country, but consumer country. But now there is a big transformation going on. Thanks to what these things happening, there is the creation of the middle class. So the construction business is evolving, but there are already needs to. Yesterday, someone told me that a young guy from Manila set up, I've forgotten already the name, a craft beer that they do really volume already. So there is the local market now, the domestic market, that is creating the needs to produce also locally. At that point, I think the country will come back. It will be even more competitive, because analyzing now the purchasing power and the cost of living of Manila or Cebu, the only places that I know quite well, is kind of scaring the cost of living in those cities, and considering also the services that you acquire. It's very expensive. I guess we were sharing in the judge panel that the cost of construction in the Philippines is even higher than Korea and Thailand, if I'm not wrong. So, not that, and in any case, the Philippines has to remove this jacket of the third world economy. This is not anymore a third world economy, so he's doing by his own pace. But sometimes, like you said, to attract people to be competitive, there should be also a price point, because personally I could have never afforded to buy that land. This is another barrier, for example. The land is already a barrier, or the cost of doing things. Otherwise this country will fly, the whole planet will come to live here. But the beauty of the people, the beauty of the country sometimes give a little bit of an illusion. But when certain people, let's say foreigners, with not a big income, okay, come to live here, then it's not like in the past that with $1,000 you can have a great life. Now with $1,000, you don't go very far on those big cities. So I think the main economic analysis point of view is that, I repeat, from rice field to internet, the industry has been forgotten, or there was no need. Or, like my company, we are in the manufacturing, in the furniture, for example. In the furniture, I'm sorry to say, but we were, only in Cebu, we were 250 company up to 2008, 2009. Barely now we are 37, 40, 50, I don't know how many we are left, because also making furniture that is not even in high tech is kind of complicated. So I think that the growing economy will make sure that there are enough number to convince middle class to start to be an entrepreneur.
Okay, very good. We have another.
One last question.
Okay.
If anyone is
Unless
wants
there's-
to ask anything. No.
Raise your
Okay.
hand.
Okay, we'll just read this one sent for Carlo. If given the chance, what do you think is the single most important infrastructure in the country that needs some serious innovative upgrade, and how would you fix or redo it?
This is the talk of every single day in Cebu. It's a pity. Actually, BGC is a perfect demonstration how beautiful and perfectly can be done things in this country. But I don't want to raise any polemics, it's done privately. So there is this missing part of the, let's say, the municipality, the government, the certain part in the urban planning. This is really something that has to be corrected, absolutely. That's the reason when I was speaking, I say something. I hope that in the province, in certain area, like they're doing in Iloilo, something very well. I am very, surprised or disappointed, I don't know what to say. In a city like Cebu, there are barely sidewalk. There are no buses. There is a country where there are no public transportation. This is very strange. So I do hope that this administration also will give a strong signal, because the people deserve to have infrastructure. And as I said before, talking about the economy, I don't know, this morning they mentioned there was Banco Central, someone, Banco Central. Anyway,
Yes.
the Philippine economy, if the government would like to push on the accelerator and to go in public spending to do serious and due infrastructure, they can do, because the ratio among public deficit and GNP is still absolutely manageable. And so, one time when I speak, I forgot the name, I'm sorry, with the previous Department of Trade and Industry Secretary, he was agree with me, because the government, there is so much to do that they don't have even the capability to organize all those tender and projects. So, like the Ramos time, I think the Philippines has a big chance, and like it's happening now in Cebu. The Cebu airport has been done privately, and the government gave a concession. That they're doing the third bridge in Mactan, or like the LRT here in Manila during the Ramos time. I think the BOT will be the perfect way for this country to fly, because if the government inject this kind of infrastructure by themselves and authorize several BOT, build, operated and transfer projects, where they give concession to do highway, to do bridges, to do whatever, the Philippines will really fly for the next 10 years and more, and counting, I think.
Bravo.
Just one last question here. Sorry, just one last question here.
Yeah, my question is to Simon. My name is Anna, I'm transformational coach, and I'm fascinated with transformation that you are driving and 3D technologies, etc. So I guess the big change that you implemented is that you created a cheap, affordable solution. And yet we're not there. So what's your vision? What's your dream? So what's this tipping point? Then everyone around will be using the technology that you've developed.
Well, it's not that we're not there. I think it's a young company. As I said, we launched this just last year with Microsoft. And I developed this technology for a global audience, but Microsoft insisted that we test it in the Philippines first. Although it was against my personal recommendation. I mean, I love it here, but I know it's difficult to launch a technology like that here. Nonetheless, it's done very well. So we're now beginning to expand outside. But I mean, I just came back now from China and Hong Kong, and even here in the Philippines, for example, we have out of 10 meetings, 9 will sign up. Not in the quantities that we require, but they will sign up here because they're so cost conservative. Even though they're getting a better deal, they still want a better deal. But that's a different issue. But like when I'm speaking to companies like, Colliers, Savile, JLL, these are companies that really have to adopt technology and have made it a decision, a mandate by their CEOs to adopt technology and to really walk the talk. Like, for example, if you see Christophe's new office and the level of investment they've made in what they call the Christophe room, I mean, it's mind-boggling, right? I've not seen that in any other company here. I've seen similar things when I go to Colliers and Knight Frank, etc., but all outside. So I think it's really the international markets that are leading this trend, because I think they're a lot more entrenched and they value technology a lot more, and perhaps maybe because their wages in the countries offer are much higher. So efficiency for them is very, very important. Here, perhaps labor is a little bit cheaper, so you can afford to put a guy on the street or 10 guys unless you're giving out flyers. But even with that, if you measure the cost of savings and the ROI by using technology, it is much higher. It's just that hiring someone right now is cheaper than investing in technology. But if you're in this for a long term, it is much more cost effective and efficient to go the technology route. So to answer your question, it is taking off. I think in the Philippines, it's a matter of just educating the market. And so we have clients that, for example, say, okay, we get it, we like it, I'll take one. And I'll say, well, you need minimum 25 of these things. No, I just need one. But a week later, he comes back, I need 25 of these things. Right, so sometimes you have to be patient and let the client, try to educate them, inform them, but I'm not a pushy salesperson. So I say, okay, you want one, go with one, and then you'll see how it works for you. If that works fine, continue with the one. But often they'll get the point, and as you use technology and understand how to use it, you will know its limitations and its capabilities. So because we believe what we're doing, we believe, we guarantee our product. Okay, fine, you want to try one, no problem. We let the client, from his own experience, decide how to push through with this. And without being too long, I'll just give you one example. So when we launched this last November, Microsoft had a big event at one of the hotels here at the Fairmont, and they invited most of the top real estate companies. And okay, I won't mention any name, but they invited one of the leading companies here in the Philippines. The management was quick to want to talk to us because one of their top brand managers really wanted his company to subscribe to our product. So it took almost 2 months back and forth to get a meeting with the decision makers of this company. So this young gentleman, he said, you know what, I'm going to subscribe with my own pocket. If I get my company, when you guys do a deal, let me know, but I'm going to subscribe. So he subscribed like 4 months ago to this thing. And about 3 weeks ago, he gave me a call and he said, I'll be in BGC, can I drop by your office? I said, yeah, sure, come on, drop by. So he said, I want to thank you for this technology, it's really changed my life. So I wasn't expecting that, although I knew it would improve his business, I didn't know really what he meant. So I said, yeah, how so? He said, up until last year, my sales were 300 million peso. In the past 4 months, my sales are 600 million peso. He's doubled his sales in 4 months. So I said, well, that's great, I'm very happy for you. Your company must, you probably got a bonus. He said, yeah, I got a raise, but I'm leaving the company. So I said, how come you leaving the company? He said, well, I just got pirated by a bigger group. Right? And he said, in this company, I have four sales beneath me. Now I have a team of 30. And all of them I'm going to make subscribe to your product. So really, it's just a bit of time that people use it, and then they'll begin to acknowledge and see the benefits of the technology.
Okay, a hand, everyone. Thank you very much. Our speakers, and for you, very patient and nice to see everybody interested in all of this.